Y'all hating. I feel like he's got a better chance than Riley Leonard.
No, Riley Leonard has a winnable schedule.
Oh, Riley Leonard
So
has
does
a way
Florida,
better
bro.
roster than Florida.
No, they don't.
Hey, just y'all wait.
You're telling me you take a Florida roster compared to the Notre Dame roster they bring back this year?
Yeah, I think strength of schedule definitely adds to the Heisman race.
No, we're moving on before this. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the You Don't Know Ball podcast. Let's get hyped. Let's get hyped.
Yeah, we got some energy today, baby.
Yeah. As you know, I'm Isaac.
I'm Jack.
And I'm Alex.
We are here to bring you another great college football episode. We'll probably hit the pros up next week. But before we get to that, let's get to our tradition in this show. Let's play some Weddle. We are on a 4-episode heater right now. So let's keep it going, huh?
Heck yeah.
What do you say, boys?
Heck yeah.
All right. Let's do it. First player guess. What are we doing? Kyler Murray. Ooh, he's on Arizona. He's not a quarterback. Who's a player there?
Rondell Moore.
Rondell Moore doesn't play there anymore. He plays with Texans.
Yeah, I forgot. Never mind.
Or something like that. I don't remember where he plays, but he doesn't play for Cardinals.
Wait, hold on. Take the selector off. Let me see this a little bit more.
He's in the Arizona NFC West. Not a quarterback. Taller than 5'10", higher number than age is 26, and then higher number than 1.
James Conner.
Yeah.
Hey! Holy cow! We absolutely murdered that one. Let's go. So that makes it 5 episodes now.
Let's go.
So we're on a heater.
That's a heater for my boy James.
We should go to Vegas. We're getting so lucky right now.
For real.
Hangover Part 2. Anyways, so moving on. Today's clip of the week comes from yours truly, myself. So I figured that I'd show you a great clip of a game that I just rewatched recently. Here we go, boys. I don't know if you remember this. This is Notre Dame's New Year's Bowl in 2017. They played LSU in the Citrus Bowl, and Miles Boykin one hands on a guy and breaks 2 tackles and brings it into the end zone for the win. So that was definitely a highlight moment in my Notre Dame fandom, because I'll never forget that, because I thought we were going to get just ran over by LSU, but we still got them. We own the SEC. Sorry, LSU went on to win the national championship like 2 years later, so it doesn't really matter.
It's kind of ironic that Brian Kelly coaches there now.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I was like, dude, of course Brian Kelly works there now, or coaches there, because we don't like Brian Kelly. We're on Marcus Freeman time, baby. All right, moving on from my Notre Dame talk. Let's get into our content. We have a great episode lined up today. Today we are ranking Heisman probabilities for the top Heisman players that were suggested, and we just threw some in there because why not? I posted a reel and a TikTok the other day asking who are your Heisman contenders. So whatever you guys put in is what we have here. And of course, we threw in a couple of other guys that we liked and think has maybe a little bit of a chance or no chance. But with that said, let's get right into it. Our first player we'll be ranking is Mr. Jalen Milroe. What do we think? Go ahead, Alex.
You asked me to do the schedule research, so I'm gonna
sorry, Alex. Go ahead, do the schedule.
So the schedule research I did is I looked up the player's schedule, and we're gonna probably judge it off of that. So, week 1, Alabama starts off with Western Kentucky, and then they have South Florida at home, and then they travel to Wisconsin. Then they have Georgia back at home, at Vanderbilt, then home against South Carolina, then at Tennessee, then versus Missouri, then at LSU, then versus Mercury. I don't even know. It's some small FCS team that
Is
actually
it
I think
Mercer?
Mercer. Yeah, whatever. See, they're not even relevant. Okay, and then at Oklahoma, and then versus Auburn at the end of season.
What's up, Jack Stark? This is his guy right here.
This ain't my guy, honestly. I like Bama, but I don't think I don't think he's in the real conversation here, or a real contender. I think he has to have a great season.
Yeah, I'm kind of there too because
Uh,
looking at his stats from last year, he had 2,800 passing yards,
mhm.
23 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. And I'm sure, I mean, his rushing game is also a threat on the field, but I also think he has to have a great season to be like a real contender. But
Mhm.
I think the second category would be a great fit for him.
Yeah, for sure.
Alex, what do you think?
So I have 4 games that he has to let a naysayer know. So those 4 games that I think that could help him in the Heisman race is at Wisconsin, versus Georgia, at Tennessee, and at LSU. If he does really well and he comes out of those games to win, I think that he has a pretty high chance of not being a contender for the Heisman, but I don't know if he has the capability to winning it. So I can say that he has to have a great season and a great couple of games. He has to. I mean, obviously he has to perform, but for all games. But I feel like those runs are the top tier for them.
I agree. So
Mhm.
we put Milthrow into the has to have a great season. I'm sure he will. Sure he'll be up there, but I think there's a couple other guys that might be a little bit better than him, especially this guy. Next guy up, Ollie Gordon, Oklahoma State running back. Alex, give us a little preview into their schedule. You don't have to tell us if they're home or not. Just let us know.
All right, so
Just let a naysayer know.
Ollie Gordon plays for Oklahoma State. He is opening the season off with South Dakota State, then Arkansas, Tulsa, Utah, Kansas State, West Virginia, BYU, Baylor, Arizona State, TCU, Texas Tech, and Colorado.
Okay, I think that's a very winnable schedule, if I say. Ollie Gordon had 1,700 rushing yards last year and 21 touchdowns on 285 carries. This man literally carried Oklahoma State into the Big 12 championship, which they ended up losing to Texas. But now Texas and Oklahoma's gone. I really feel like Oklahoma State and Ollie Gordon could run this conference, and I feel like Ollie Gordon's gonna have a Heisman-worthy season. So I'm gonna put him in as a real contender.
Yeah, I agree with that. If he has a year similar to the last one and um, other quarterbacks don't do as well, I think he could be a real contender.
Yeah.
Especially at the running back role.
Yeah.
Looking at Oklahoma State's schedule, it really does not intimidate me if I'm Oklahoma State or really a fan, because you really don't play any of like the top tier teams in the Big 12, like at all.
Yeah,
Like,
y'all suck.
I mean, they don't play Kansas, who's probably one of the contenders. They don't play who else? Freaking I think the only game that they really have probably a tough time against is Texas Tech. TCU fell off, and then Colorado, we don't know what they're gonna be. They're probably gonna be okay, but they were overrated last year. So yeah, I think he's a real contender, but I think that what hurts him is his strength of schedule. That's the thing that I am really concerned about. But if he just goes absolutely insane, I don't think that he will not be in New York or wherever the Heisman ceremony is celebrated at this year.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think Ollie Gordon's the real deal. I think he's a real contender. And let's move on. Next guy up, my guy for this season. We're rocking and rolling with Riley Leonard, Alex, you can give him the schedule real quick. Just give us a breakdown of who you think Riley could uh, beat to potentially raise his Heisman status.
So he starts off the season at Texas A&M. That's going to be a tough game for the Notre Dame Fighting Irish going into apparently the number one rated hardest places to play in EA college football, which I
We'll talk
I don't
about that
know.
in another episode.
Yeah, we can leave that. But then he starts off, and then he goes back home against Northern Illinois, and then Purdue, Miami, Louisville, Stanford, Georgia Tech, Navy, Florida State, Virginia, and Army, and ends the season off with USC.
Yeah, so that schedule's pretty favorable. I mean, we have two tough games, Texas A&M and Florida State. I mean, I guess you could throw Louisville in there, but I feel like Riley Leonard's going to have a great season. I'm looking at his numbers from last year. He only played a couple of games because he got his ankle snapped in half like against Notre Dame last year. So, but his stats before last year were he had 2,967 passing yards, 20 touchdown passes, 6 interceptions, and he was also a threat on the ground. So I'm really looking forward to see what Riley can do for the Irish, and I feel like even though I feel like he's gonna have a great season, I think he has to prove a lot, has a lot to prove. So I'm putting him there just for right now.
Yeah, I think he has a lot to prove too. I mean, last year he got hurt, but 1-1 touchdown interception ratio is not that great, and 20-6 is all right for the year before, but there's definitely some guys that are going to have better stats than that, and he has a lot to prove.
Yep, I agree. Alex?
Yep. I do think that he has a lot to prove. Something that really took my eye on their schedule is that do they really have 3 neutral site games?
I don't know. I gotta look at that later, but
Because that's what ESPN has is on them. They're a neutral site against Georgia Tech, Navy, and Army.
probably.
So that. I mean, you only like really see one maybe for like a normal season. I think right. But anyways, yeah,
Well,
he
I
has a lot of
mean,
proof.
they do got to play Navy and Army over in Ukraine.
Yeah. Okay, bro.
Okay, moving on.
Okay. But yeah, he has a lot of proof, and I think that one of the biggest games that he can prove that hey, I'm here, I'm a contender, is against Texas A&M, going down there at 7:30 at night when the 12th man is rocking, and then they also have to beat USC at the end of the season. So I don't know if he doesn't perform well in those 2 games, then you can count him out. But like, I think that he has a legit chance. He just has a lot of proof.
Yeah. We're not losing to USC, so I guess we could just brush that off the table. I'm more worried about Florida State. But moving on, so Riley Leonard has a lot to prove. This man definitely proved a lot from his first season at Florida last year after having a disappointing couple years in Wisconsin. Let's take a look at Graham Mertz. Graham Mertz, the quarterback of the Florida Gators. We all know their schedule's hard. I don't feel like we need to run down. I mean, you could run down the November stretch that they have because I think that's the toughest part of their season. Alex.
So Florida, I think, has the number one hardest schedule in the country, right? So so their bottom half of their season, I'm not really gonna care about the first half because they open up with Miami, which is probably gonna be a win, anyways. Maybe. Well, Miami's
Miami's
pretty
pretty
good.
good, but
Yeah.
just look at
Well,
that.
Miami, and then
Miami
they
of
go to
Ohio or
Stanford.
actual Miami?
The
Actually,
U.
like the U.
Oh,
So what they
hey,
have
that's a tough game,
starting
dude.
October 12th is at Tennessee, then Kentucky, then Georgia, then Texas, then LSU, then Ole Miss, and then Florida State at the end of the season.
Yeah, that's a ridiculous schedule. But looking at his stats last year, he had 2,900 passing yards, 20 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Even though that was pretty good, I still think he has a very low chance just because of how hard that schedule is. I mean, if they go undefeated, for sure he's going to be a real contender. Like you have to put him up there. He's probably the reason why Florida's going to have success. But just looking at that and looking what they did last season, I can't put him any higher than low chance. But I don't want to put him in the no chance category because I feel like he's still I feel like there's always a little hope. So
Yeah.
that's where I have Mr. Graham Mertz. Jack, let's hear your take.
I think that's way too low for him. I think if he has a great season, especially against those teams, he can do well. I mean, last year he had 72.9 completion percentage, and that's a very high completion percentage. 20 and 3 touchdown to interception. I think if he does that plus a little more, obviously, against that schedule, he can do it. So I'd put him in. Has to have a great season.
Okay.
I think he has a low chance, honestly. I mean, Florida, I don't think they match up with half those teams that they end off at the end of the season. Their roster is I'm just gonna say their roster is not as talented as Ole Miss, LSU, Georgia, Tennessee, maybe. So I don't think that Graham Mertz really has a chance. But if he ends up beating like maybe let's say he ends up beating LSU, Florida State, Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Texas A&M and Miami at the beginning of the season, sure, he has a good chance, but I don't think he's going to get anywhere higher than the 5 through 10 range in the Heisman contention.
Yeah. So we're putting him at low chance that it was 2-1, 2 votes to Jack's 1. So
Hey, hold
moving
on.
on.
I'm just going to say a few stats. Against Georgia, he had 230 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 73.5 completion percentage.
And
Yeah, what was
still
the score of
lost.
that game?
LSU, well, he can't do the whole thing out here. He needs defense to do something. All right. Uh, LSU, he cut them up too, 311 yards. So,
When was the last time we saw a starting quarterback with a losing record be a Heisman contender?
hey, who's going to say they got a losing record this year, though?
I just feel like he has a low chance.
Y'all
And
hating. I feel like he's got a better chance than Riley Leonard.
No, Riley
Riley
Leonard
Leonard
has a
had some.
winnable schedule.
Riley Leonard has
So
a
does
way
Florida,
better
bro.
roster than Florida
No, they
does.
don't.
Hey, just y'all wait.
You're telling me you take a Florida roster compared to the Notre Dame roster they bring back this year?
Yeah, I think strength of schedule
Oh my God, dude.
definitely adds to the Heisman race.
No, we're moving on before this
If
creates
you're
any
if
more
you're
arguments.
playing JUCOs every other week, you're not gonna win a Heisman.
I
You gotta
I,
get dirty
I
with it.
don't think Riley Leonard's going to win the Heisman. That's why I think it
You gotta
has a
get
lot to
dirty
prove.
with it, Isaac.
All right, whatever. We're moving
That's what
on
Mertz is
from
doing. He's getting
we're,
dirty with it.
we're moving on from Mr. Graham Mertz. He's going to create a argument. Grayson, I know you're going to be listening. This is where we have your quarterback. So if you have a problem with it, take it up with someone else. We have Jackson Dart next. So just a little bit look at him. He had 3,300 passing yards, 23 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. Alex, who is his what's his schedule?
Jackson Dart is we all know he's the Ole Miss quarterback, whatever. But they also have a really tough schedule. But they start off with Furman, then Middle Tennessee, Wake Forest, Georgia Southern, Kentucky, South Carolina, and right after South Carolina, they go to at LSU versus Oklahoma, at Arkansas, Georgia, Florida, and then Mississippi State. So it's not as hard as Florida's. I'll give them that. But go ahead.
I'll start off with this. I think he has to have a great season. I mean, for sure he could be a real contender, but he has to have a great season for him to be really in the talks of being in the Heisman race. I mean, Dart he's proven himself to be a really solid quarterback in the SEC. I mean, obviously look at his numbers and look what he did last season as a Rebels quarterback, but this season they bringing back a loaded roster and Dart has to be the one to lead them. And I just feel like he needs to have a great season. So that's just my simple take on it.
Yeah, looking at his numbers, I mean, it looks like he's a solid quarterback. So I think if he has a great season, he's up there.
Yep, I think that if he has a great season, he can also be a super big contender. One thing that does take my eye is that they don't play Alabama this year. And that was in a previous episode. That was my one thing for Ole Miss to be like a contender for this year is they have to get over Alabama, and then they'll even play them until maybe the SEC championship. So if they can go out and beat Georgia, Florida, and get to the SEC championship game, and they meet Alabama, then I guess if he beats them, then he's gonna be like a top four maybe. So, yeah, I think he has to have a great season and has to show up in those big games, including their well, let's say rival, but they don't play him this year, Alabama.
Yep. So we have Jackson Dart joining Alabama quarterback Jalen Milroe and has to have a great season. So moving on to another SEC quarterback, Mr. Carson Beck. He had 3,900 passing yards, 24 touchdown passes, and 6 interceptions. He had an 86 QBR, which is fifth in the entire country. We all know the Dogs. The Dogs bring back a loaded roster. I feel like I mean, can you just go through Georgia's key games to the schedule right now?
So his key games start off with Clemson, and then week 3 he has to go to Kentucky, and then he goes to Alabama right after that. Then, if Auburn's any good, then he goes to Auburn, and then October 19th he goes to at Texas, and then comes back for Florida, then goes to Ole Miss, and then Tennessee, and then he has Massachusetts and Georgia Tech to squash at the end of the season. But that's about it.
Yep. So I think Carson Beck's a real contender. Look at the roster around him. Georgia, there's already been talks about him being already a top 5 Heisman contender. I think Georgia's gonna have to bring back a really good team. I mean, obviously, if you paid attention, if you listened to our last episode, we had Georgia in the national champs contender category. So I think Carson Beck's gonna be the main reason, or one of the reasons why Georgia is going to be this great next year. And I think he's just a real contender.
Yeah, I mean for sure. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the NCAA right now with one of the best teams that surrounded him. So it's hard to not have him in the real contender category.
Yep.
I'm also putting him in the real contender category. He just has a loaded roster around him. He has so much skill that he can just use throughout the field. He can go deep, short, hand it off, whatever. Everything will probably work for Georgia this season, especially for the roster they have. And I think they only really have to. I struggle is kind of a reach, but I think they have some tough games against Alabama and maybe Ole Miss if they show up, because those are both at away. So yeah, I think that he's a real contender no matter what. I mean, that's Georgia, and that's all I have to say about him. Honestly, that's it.
Real contender.
Real
That's it.
contender.
All right, let's move on to another SEC quarterback. Have you guys picked up on a rhythm yet? Because SEC is going to have a loaded quarterback room. We have Brady Cook, Missouri quarterback. He last season took everybody by surprise. He stormed his way into like what, third place in the SEC or something like that. Beat Ohio State in a New Year's Six bowl pretty handedly. And Alex, go ahead and tell him his schedule because I feel like their schedule is pretty favorable. I mean, I think they only play Alabama as like one of their hardest games, but other than that, it's pretty smooth sailing.
Yeah, so they start off the season with Murray State, and then they have Buffalo, Boston College, Vanderbilt at Texas A&M, and then Massachusetts, Auburn at Alabama, uh, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Mississippi State, and Arkansas. So that's all Brady Cook has to go through.
Yeah. Uh, I mean, his stats were 3,300 passing yards, 21 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. I feel like he has to have a great season. He proved a lot last season. He's proved himself to be a really solid quarterback. This is his senior year, and I feel like he's just gonna go out there and light it up. I think if he does that, he is no question a real contender. But right now, I'm gonna for to be safe, I'm gonna put him in. Has to have a great season.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, he's got who's that receiver that they got?
Burden the third.
Yeah, yeah, he's still got him, and they're gonna cut it up. I mean, just looking at this guy's last year, he beat Kansas State, who was ranked 15. Kentucky, who's ranked 24, Tennessee, who's ranked 13. So he shows up in the big games. He almost beat Georgia. I mean, that game was really close up till the
Yeah.
end. And
Yeah.
LSU, he lost by 10, but he had 411 yards. So dude can ball out. I think he has to have a great season, though.
Yep. Alex?
Yeah, I'm on the fence for this one. I really think that he can be a real contender. But I also see where you guys are coming from, who has to have a great season. But I think Brady Cook really has a lot of hype around his name right now, and the Missouri team in general. They had a really good season last year, and they bring like almost all their roster back, and they have a lot of weapons, including Burton, the receiver. But I really think if he's going to be a real Heisman contender, he has to beat Alabama, and then uh, I don't think he plays Georgia this year, but he has to win some other big game that if comes up on his schedule. But I will say that he has a good season. This has to have a great season this year.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like Brady Cook's got a lot to work with, and he's got all the opportunity in the world. Let's move on to another guy that was behind a legendary Michigan running back. Just got to be on the cover of EA College Football 25. Got a lot of hype around him right now. That would be Donovan Edwards from Michigan. Alex, tell us a little bit about Michigan's schedule. We'll see if he is a real contender or not.
So Michigan's schedule starts off with a little bit more competition than the previous years on non-conference games. They open up with Fresno State, then they have Texas at home, then they have Arkansas State, then they play USC, Minnesota, Washington, Illinois, Michigan State, Oregon, Indiana, Northwestern, and end off the season with, of course, Ohio State at Ohio State.
Yeah, Donovan Edwards' stats from last year were not great, but they weren't bad. I mean, for who he was sitting behind, I mean, he had 119 carries, almost 500 yards, and 5 touchdowns. He had those 2 big long runs in the national championship game, which took everybody's attention. So for me, I think he has a lot to prove for me. The schedule that they have Texas, Oregon, and Ohio State. I mean, if he has really good games in that and he's just lighting it up the entire season, he's a real contender. But I feel like Ollie Gordon and the difference between Ollie Gordon and Donovan Edwards is just one's had a really great season and one's just been sheltered behind Blake Corum. So there's no hate on Donovan Edwards, but he has a lot to prove.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. I mean, what really excites me about him is his average. I mean, 4.2 average is pretty good, and I think that could definitely come up with more rushes. So, I mean, him being the first option at running back, he's going to have a good good chance to prove himself. So I'd say he has a lot to prove there.
Yeah, I think he has to have a great season. Let's just look at it this way. There is no excuse on why he can't get the yards and the touchdowns and the receiving yards or whatever he has to do for that Michigan offense because he has nobody in front of him. He's the main guy now. He's probably he's probably going to be like maybe I don't want to say 90% of the offense, but he's like 75% of the offense now this year. Like he has to be the guy to win for Michigan, and then if they want to make a playoff run, that he has to be way better than just breaking off in a national championship game, which is pretty cool for him. But like, he's the guy, he's the man. So I think he has to have a great season, and I think he will have a great season because Donovan Edwards is ready for his chance, and I think that he's ready to prove the world wrong that he's not just a big time player. He's a big moment player. He's for real.
Yep. Well, unfortunately for you, Alex, we had two votes to one, so we gotta put him in. Has a lot to prove, but I agree with your statement. It's just there's some things he has to show us before I put him up there anywhere higher. Let's move on to a guy that has showed us that he's got a lot of talent. Quinshon Judkins transferred to Ohio State this last offseason. 271 carries, 1,158 yards, 15 touchdowns, 4.3 yards per carry, and that was his freshman year. Or is that his sophomore? No, that's his freshman year.
No, it's
This
a
dude could.
sophomore.
It's sophomore.
He played in 22 as well and had 1,500 yards.
Okay, yeah, I see that.
He had a better freshman year.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. I just now seeing that. Well, anyways, that dude could play. This guy is ridiculous. So for me, I think he has to have a great season. I don't want to put him anywhere higher than him just drop off because he's sharing carries with Travion Henderson at Ohio State, who's also a really good running back. But I feel like if he plays the way he did and or even better, he's going to be a good really good back for the Buckeyes. But I'm putting him has to have a great season.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I mean, 1,500 yards and then almost 1,200 yards. That's great. That's crazy for a running back. I think what separates him from Ollie Gordon a little bit is the touchdowns, which is by 5 or 6. But I think that separates them. And so, yeah, I think he has to have a great season.
Before this, I forgot to say that for Donovan Edwards, after Michigan State, he has to go to Oregon or versus Oregon. So forgot to mention that. But back to Judkins, I'll just give you a little schedule. A look. He starts off the season with Akron and Western Michigan and Marshall. Then he's at Michigan State,
That's
Iowa.
like 0-3 right there.
Holy cow, that's 0-3. Man, tough. Those Broncos are.
Y'all said Florida had a tough schedule?
Yeah, man. Holy cow.
That 3-game stretch is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Dang, Ryan Day. You say you have a tough team and you do those guys?
You can get them
I'm
ice
kidding.
masks ready.
Michigan's no better.
Time to nut up and shut up.
Yeah. Michigan's no better. But anyways, then he starts off real Big Ten play against Michigan State, Iowa, Oregon, at Oregon, Nebraska, Penn State, Purdue, Northwestern, Indiana, and then ends the season off with the University of Michigan at home. And I don't know. I think this guy he has to prove a lot. I think that there's so many weapons on that team that I don't think he gets nearly as much carries as he wants.
Take, Alex. Bias. That's so biased.
I'm not giving him anything. I'm not going to do it. I'm sorry.
You're gonna give Donovan
Edwards.
You're gonna give Donovan Edwards a roll above him.
Look at Donovan Edwards. It doesn't matter if I say
Look at Judkins.
No, I'm saying on the list. It doesn't matter what my take was. He's going to get up there anyway.
Sorry, Alex. It's 2-1.
Yeah. See, but I think my take is that he has a lot to prove because there's so many weapons on that team that he doesn't really need to have a workload like Donovan Edwards or Ollie Gordon has to have. He has to he's going to have to perform on what he got as a run game. That's all I got to say. I think Ohio State is a passing team, and I think they continue that with this season, but I don't know what to say for him, and I'm not going to say anything. Period.
But what if Ryan Day? What if Ryan Day's like, we've been getting our asses kicked by Michigan, so we got to become a run team now?
I don't think he. I don't think he has.
May as well take the thing that's beating us the best.
I don't think he has.
That's like playing while going to Edwardsburg offense.
Well,
he's going after Lou Holtz. So I don't know if he can be like.
We got to run the wishbone, boys.
Yeah, let's
when
run
Ryan
the ball
Day
for
went
once.
after when Ryan Day went after when Ryan Day went after Lou Holtz after they beat Notre Dame, dude. Lou Holtz was asleep 3 hours ago. He does not care. We do. I mean, obviously he's gonna wake up in the morning and be like, oh well, Ryan Day put me in the news this again. Well, good for Lou Holtz. He's still living rent free in these coaches' minds. And one more thing, how many national championships do you have, Ryan Day? 0. Shut the hell up. All right, moving on. We're not talking about.
I got one more thing. Judkins gonna have a Ezekiel Elliott type season.
Okay, I don't know. I feel like the split carries is really going to hurt his status, but we'll see. If he does, good for him. Let's move on to a guy that used to play for the Wolverines and now plays for the Iowa Hawkeyes. We got Cade McNamara. What is his chances of winning the Heisman? Alex, give me a
0.
little breakdown of his schedule here, real quick.
All right, Cade McNamara. Before he got hurt, he was actually playing okay in that terrible offense Iowa has. Like, holy cow, dude. I mean, I'm sorry. Like, that was terrible. But, anyways, he starts off the season with Illinois State, then Iowa State, a rival of theirs, Troy, Minnesota, then at Ohio State, Washington, Michigan State, Nebraska, Wisconsin, excuse me. They don't play them twice. UCLA, Maryland, and Nebraska.
Yeah, looking at Cade McNamara's stats last year, I mean, he had 505 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. I'm just gonna say that he has no chance.
Yep.
Uh, Iowa's I. There's a lot of people saying that Iowa's gonna make the playoffs just because their schedule's so easy. I just don't trust their offense quite yet, and I actually really like Cade McNamara. I liked him when he was at Michigan, but I just don't think he has enough around him to even work with or have a great offense. But for me, he has no chance. Not enough electric plays and not enough electric playmakers around him.
Yeah, I think he has no chance. I mean, I was known for about two things: defense and tight ends, and no quarterback's going to do two. No quarterback's going to become a Heisman throwing to just a tight end. So
Right.
Uh, Cade, I mean this in the nicest way possible. I appreciate everything that I appreciate everything that you did at Michigan, even though I think you kind of hate Michigan now. But
probably
there's
just
no shot
JJ.
for you. I'm
Probably just
sorry.
JJ.
Yeah, I don't think they get to the playoffs because of Cade McNamara. I think they get to the playoffs with that incredible defense that they have there. Um, I mean, sure, McNamara can make a few plays every game, whatever, but those few plays aren't gonna make him. Oh, holy cow, he's way better than Jackson Dart, who's actually throwing to wide receivers every play. No, he he's not a contender. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I agree. Poor Mr. McNamara is gonna have to take a little blow to that one. I mean, we
He's
all
going to
kind
take
of
a
knew that.
timeout.
We kind of knew that he was gonna be not a contender, but we wanted to throw him in there just to get some players to put in that category. Yeah, there's a couple more guys, but we'll move on. Cade McNamara, no chance from You Don't Know Ball podcast. Let's move on to a guy that might have a little bit better of a chance. We have Cade Klubnik, quarterback of the Clemson Tigers. Alex, you want to give us a little bit of a breakdown on their schedule?
Yeah, sure. So they open up with the season with Georgia, and that's about it. I'm kidding. They
That's the
play
only game
at.
they got.
I mean, that's literally
And that's
that's the
it.
only game they really have. I mean, sorry, never mind. Florida State's on the schedule, but they have Georgia, Appalachian State, NC State, Stanford, Florida State, Wake Forest, Virginia, Louisville, uh, Virginia Tech, Pittsburgh, the Citadel. Oh man, actually, I forgot about the Citadel.
The Citadel.
Uh, yeah,
Who are they playing? Rick and Morty?
yeah, and South Carolina to end the season.
Okay, so I mean, you know where we put uh, Clemson and into the ranking we did last week. But Cade Klumnick's stats were 2,800 passing yards, 19 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions, 55 QBR, which is 80th in the country. I just don't think he's all that. I think Cade Klumnick has a low chance. I mean, sure, if he pulls out like we all thought Joe Burrow had like a low or no chance, but then he came out and had the best season known to man. And I'm not saying that Cade Klubnik's gonna do that, but I don't want that to bite me in the butt when he does. So I'm putting him at low chance, but he's got to win a couple of those big games. Like he's got to beat Georgia, he's got to beat Florida State.
What?
But it's not.
Georgia's a reach, Isaac.
I'm just saying he
He's got
has
to
to.
compete. He's got to compete with Georgia.
No, he has to be Georgia.
Oh my lord!
But we all know it's not going to happen. So,
Yeah.
K. Klubnik, low chance.
Hey, kind of looking here. It looks like he ripped up Notre Dame last year.
He had 101 passing yards. That's not what
Hey,
not what I would
I'm
call.
looking at the green W.
Okay, that's not even close to being ripped up. 109 passing yards. Yeah. Wow.
No,
That's really tearing us up.
yeah, I think he's low chance too. I mean, you're talking about Joe Burrow, but I don't think old Klubnik has Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase or Randy Moss's son there at tight end. So yeah,
Yeah. No.
Klubnik ain't doing it. Low chance.
No, I don't think he has. I think I'll give him a low chance. Have a Grant Mertz can have a buddy on this one. I don't. I
Yeah,
don't
someone to
think.
talk to on the
I
bus.
There
I
we go.
just something about Cade Klubnik that I've had for whatever for Clemson is I don't think he can win the big game. Period. That's all I think. I think he goes out to Georgia thinking that he's all that, and then he puts a goose egg up against Georgia. That's what I think. I don't think Clemson is at all what they used to be with Trevor Lawrence in that era. But I just don't think Cade Klubnik is him. I think he is right there with Graham Mertz. He is gonna go like I don't know what their record's going to be, but they're not going to be the reason their team wins. Sorry.
No, I agree.
Sorry.
All right. Moving on from K. Klubnik, let's look at a guy that is a real contender for me. That's Quinn Ewers, quarterback of Texas Longhorns. Hook 'em. I mean, just look at their roster. Look what they bring back. Alex, give us their schedule breakdown real quick.
Sure. So they open the season with Colorado State, then they're at Michigan, then versus the UTSA Roadrunners, I think that's what they are. Then Monroe, Mississippi State, Oklahoma, Georgia, Vanderbilt, Florida, Arkansas, Kentucky, and Texas A&M.
Yeah, so Quinn Ewers has a pretty tough schedule, I guess, give or take. There's a couple of games in there, like Michigan one's gonna be tough, but even if he does like lose one or two games, they'll still make the playoffs. And I mean, we saw Jaden Daniels, who lost 3 games last year, win the Heisman. So I'm not comparing Quinn Ewers to Jaden Daniels. Jaden Daniels is a more electric athlete and can run and throw. But Quinn Ewers definitely has the tools to win the Heisman. I mean, he
Mhm.
lit it up all last season. He had 3,400 passing yards, 22 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions. He has one of the best rosters going into this season. I think Quinn Ewers is a real contender.
Yeah, I think he is too. I mean, Quinn Ewers. I've always had a big aspirations for him since he's been in college football. I mean, I've always thought that he's gonna do pretty good. Um, Last year, I mean, in the Big 12 championship against Oklahoma State, look at his numbers. He has 452 passing yards in a championship game, and against Washington in the playoff game, he had 318, and they lost by 6. So he
Yeah.
can he shows up to big games, and he's a good quarterback. So I think he's a real contender.
I'm going to agree with you guys on this one. I think Quinn Ewers is one of the best or the best quarterback in college football this year. I think that if I really think that Texas is a complete team this year, and I think they have a lot to prove. Again, obviously losing against Washington in the semifinal this year, or I mean last year. But I think Quinn Ewers has probably one of. I mean, I keep on when you guys were talking about it, I keep on thinking about when he played Alabama last year and just had that
Mm-hmm.
awesome long ball to Xavier Worthy. Like that thing was up there forever and was just a dime. So I think that he's the real contender, and I think he might win it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think Texas is a real contender for the national championship, and Quinn is a real contender for the Heisman Trophy. Let's move on to Dion's boys. We got Travis Hunter right now. Uh, I mean, we can do both their schedule. Yeah, I mean they're both on Colorado. Of course, we're gonna do their schedules. Alice, give me their schedule.
So for obviously, do you want to say who's next after Travis Hunter? Or
We got Shador
For
Sanders
me.
after Travis Hunter.
So for Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter, they start off the season with North Dakota State, Nebraska, Colorado State, Baylor, UCF, Kansas State, Arizona, Cincinnati, Texas Tech, Utah, Kansas, and Oklahoma State at the end of the season.
Yeah, Travis Hunter being that dual threat at receiver and at corner. I mean, we saw his first game against TCU. That was just ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
His able to go up and get the ball and as a receiver and then do it on the opposite side of the ball and get a pick down at the goal line, which no one saw him coming. That guy, the running back was wide open. I think everybody in the stadium knew he was wide open. Travis Hunter's made an incredible play on the
Mm-hmm.
ball. So
And I think that's what won them that game.
yeah, oh
Really.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Travis Hunter was the difference maker in that game for Colorado. But looking at this season, I think this was hard for me because I feel like he has a lot to prove, but I think he has to have a great season. So I'm gonna put him at he has to have a great season for Travis Hunter.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna put him in has a lot to prove. I think it's tough to win a Heisman at not any position except quarterback, but it's definitely advantageous for him to play wide receiver and corner. So if he balls out at both of those, there's definitely a chance. But I think he has a lot to prove.
Yeah, I'm also going to agree with Jack on this one. I mean, we haven't seen a defensive player win the Heisman since Charles Woodson, and guess what Charles Woodson did? He played both sides of the ball and tore it up. But I think
But he was
that
at
the
a good
difference,
school,
yeah,
not Colorado,
yeah, the difference between those two is that Michigan was undefeated that year, and
and won the
uh,
Natty.
yeah, they won a natty, and Travis Hunter was 4 and whatever last year.
Yeah.
So, but if they have a really good season this year, like obviously they might lose a few games, but I think that he has a shot at it, but he also has a lot to prove. We all know he's a freak athlete. It's incredible that he is playing both sides of the ball and like he performs really well at both of them. And uh, yeah, I think he has to tear it up against the big teams of the Big 12 and show them that Colorado is a, let's say, a great team to be in the conference this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Colorado has a lot to prove this season in general,
Mhm.
coming off that 4-8 record they had the year prior. But let's move on to his teammate. We got Shador Sanders, the guy who's going to be throwing him the ball. I mean, we already went through his schedule, so I'll just say his stats real quick. He had 3,200 passing yards, 27 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. Looking at that stats, those are great. I mean, 27 touchdowns to 3 interceptions is pretty good. That's more than pretty good as a college quarterback. I mean, if his record was a little bit better, maybe he would have been in the Heisman contending last year. I don't know, but this year, I feel like he also has to have a great season. I mean, that team just has to maybe win 9 games for him to be in the conversation. So I think Shador has to have a great season, and I think Colorado will upset a lot of teams. I think they're going to take the spotlight by storm again because let's just say it, Deion Sanders isn't going anywhere, and he's prime time.
Yeah, for real. Um, I don't really even think it's on Shador. I think it's just on Colorado, really, because obviously you just said his stats and he balled out last year, but that Colorado's defense let him down because I think they were scoring pretty good. I think their offense was pretty good. They're kind of like a inverse Iowa, so um, I'll put him in. Has to have a great season, but I think it's all contingent on their defense and how Colorado does.
So yeah.
Yeah, so I think that he is a real contender. We all see how he plays on offense, and we all see how he performed, even with his god awful offensive line last year. Like, if everything goes right for Colorado, and nobody messes it up, it just works. I mean, Colorado needs to have a great season, but Colorado, George Sanders has to have like that it factor for at least 4 of those games that, if that are going to be close. And I think that he has to, obviously, he has to have a winning record this year, but I think that it really all depends on his record and what games he just balls out in. Those two.
Yeah. Sorry, to add one more thing to what I said earlier, I think Colorado's really addressed their O line and D line problems, especially the O line, because Shador Sanders was one of the most sacked quarterback last year.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like if you just give him some guys to like help him out in front of him, he's going to lead your team to win. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's just who he is. We saw him do it at Jackson State. We're gonna see him do it at Colorado. I feel like this season. I'm excited to see what the Buffs can do this season.
Yeah, I
Moving
mean
on.
that dude got the hell beat out of him in the Colorado State game,
Oh
and
my
his O
word.
line just wasn't doing anything.
Dude, that game and the Washington State game. Oh my,
Mm-hmm.
dude, I felt so bad.
It
The
was
game was not even
brutal.
close from the opening kick.
Mm-hmm.
So
So yeah,
yeah,
their lines are. I think that's the main part where they lack is both sides of the ball on the line.
Yeah,
So
they
yeah,
have all the skill in the world.
mm-hmm.
They
yeah.
just need to protect them.
Yeah,
That's or
they
yeah.
need
That's
the
Get a
what
big boys.
tackle.
yeah.
Get a tackle at the one.
That's
One of the two.
that's what Dion said in his interview with Joel Klatt. Like we have all the skill guys on this team that we could win with, but we don't have anybody in the line
Mm-hmm.
that's helping. So they addressed that in the portal. Let's see. Let's see what their additions can do. Let's move on to another SEC quarterback. He's going into his, I don't know, like sophomore or junior year. We have Nico Ilamanava or something like that. Pretty close. Don't kill me on my pronunciation of his game. I'm not a broadcaster. So he's the quarterback of the Tennessee Vols. Um, Alex, want to give us a little? Let's give us the main games that Nico would have to perform in.
Yeah, so our only Tennessee player on this list has to beat or has to play good against is Oklahoma, Alabama, Florida, Kentucky, Georgia, and yeah, that's about it. Oh, maybe Chattanooga too, I guess.
Yeah.
Nuga.
Looking at his stats from last year, I mean, obviously he had to sit behind Joe Milton, but he played the entire bowl game against Iowa, and they won 35-0. He had 12 completions out of 19 attempts, 151 yards, and 1 touchdown. His season stats were 314 yards and 2 touchdowns. So I think Nico has a low chance this season. I mean, he just is young. He's going into his sophomore season, and we'll see what his junior season has in store for him. But right now, I'm putting him in as a low chance. No, I'm gonna say no chance. Actually, no chance.
Ooh, that's rough, Isaac. I
No,
don't think.
actually, sorry. Hold on. I'm gonna go back to low chance. I had to change my mind.
I was gonna say I think it's a low chance just because he's a fairly new quarterback because he didn't play much last year, and Tennessee's kind of on their downswing from a few years ago. So I'm gonna say low chance.
I'm also gonna say low chance. I don't think it's impossible for him to win the Heisman, but I think when was the guy that like was the youngest to win the Heisman? I think it was like Lamar Jackson. It was a few years ago. That was like the last one, right? He was only a sophomore, or was he not?
Yeah, I don't know. I think he was a sophomore. So
Anyways, whatever. But look, I think that he really has to have a great season, and I think that's going to be hard playing against Alabama and that's and Georgia in the same season. And I think um, Tennessee has weapons, and I just think he's going to be too inexperienced to be like so dominant that all he does is throw touchdowns. I think he's going to have some growing pains.
yeah. So Nico is a low chance court for the Heisman this year, but we'll see what he gets next year. Looking at another guy who's going to be a young gun for another team, we have Avery Johnson, Kansas State Wildcats quarterback. We saw him perform in the Pop Tarts Bowl, and he absolutely just he balled out for how young he is and how much people like didn't know about him. He beat so NC State 28-19, 14 attempts, 14 completions, 31 attempts, 178 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And his season stats were 479 passing yards and 5 touchdowns. This guy, I feel like he's also a young guy, so I'm going to put him at low chance. But in the future, he's definitely going to be a guy to look out for. So Avery Johnson for me is a low chance for the Heisman this year.
Yeah, I think he's also a low chance just because he's so young, and Kansas State's really one of those teams that kind of sits middle of the pack. So I don't think they'll make the playoffs. So I think that'll impact him. So yeah, I'm putting low chance.
Yeah, I'm gonna put him at low chance too. He has some tough games against Oklahoma State and Kansas, and that's Kansas is obviously their rival. And then we can put Colorado up there, assuming that if they get better. He's gonna have some growing pains at quarterback, and not everything's gonna be sunshines and rainbows like the Pop Tart Bowl was for him. Um, he's he's a great athlete. I remember watching him perform in that game. I just think he's gonna have some growing pains during the season. It's not just one game. It's 12 or 11. Sorry.
It's
Mhm.
closer to the teens now for amount of games. I'm not going to give an exact number. I can't remember. Moving on to another guy. We have Luther Burden the third. I apologize. In the last episode, I said Luther Martin. His name is Luther Burden.
That's
So
why I thought it was Luther Martin, dude. I was
yeah,
like,
that's not his
I know
name.
that there's some Luther Martin, dude.
I don't know. I don't know why I said that, but Luther Burden the third is going to be an electric receiver this season for Missouri. As long as he has Brady Cook back there throwing him the rock, he's going to be the number one target. So I'm going to stretch with this one. I'm going to put him as a real contender for the Heisman this year. I mean, if anything, he was as good as Maserati Marv last year. So I see a lot of characteristics similar between these two guys. So I'm gonna put him in real contender.
Um, I think he has a real chance, but I wouldn't put him over Brady Cook, honestly, because I feel like it's hard if Cook's throwing him the ball to rate Martin over his quarterback. And it's so hard to win a Heisman at wide receiver. So I'm going to say he has to have a great season.
Alex?
Sorry guys, my camera is out. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
we
can hear
got
you.
you.
Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry. What'd you say for him again?
We said that Luther Burden is either. I said he's a real contender, and Jack said he was has to have a
Has to
great
have a
season.
great season.
I don't think it's fair for him to be a real contender if Brady Cook's not there. I mean, how is he going to get the ball if
That's what I said, Alex. We on the
so?
same page, dog.
I think that he's going
Hey,
to have
man.
to have a good season, and that's my take.
Now,
All
unless
right.
they're just doing end arounds with him all season.
Hey, there's more ways to get him the ball than just throwing it to him. But I mean,
You get
hell,
a
we saw in
lineman
the
flea flicker.
in the trailer for the UA college football game, he was the kick returner. I mean, he could do so much more
He's
than the ball
not
in the play.
returning the ball in real
I
life,
mean, he
dude.
probably isn't, but if Missouri wanted to put him back there, they should or they could. So that's just what
Well,
I thought.
sure they
But
could, but they're not gonna because he's gonna have more chance to get hurt back there when
yes,
he's
I know, but
putting up as
whatever.
many yards as he is receiving.
I just wanted to get some disagreement on the show. We had to disagree with each other
Well, there
sometimes.
is
So.
Isaac, and now I'm mad.
All right, Luther Burden has to have a great season. There we go. He's the same
Luther
level as
Martin. Luther. What about where's Luther Martin? Is he next?
no. All right, let's move on to a DB that might have a chance. His name's Will Johnson. I don't. Does he sound familiar?
Never heard of him.
Never heard
Sounds
of
very familiar.
him. I just almost said Luther Martin again. Oh, Will Johnson. Will Johnson is a. I think we already went through Michigan's schedule. We already know who they're going to play. I think he has to have a great season. I mean, this. I don't know. It's hard for him to win. You know what? That was the bias in me speaking. I mean, if they put him at receiver, I could maybe see him having
That's
a
what I
great
was gonna
season.
say.
But I think he's got a low chance. He's a DB. He's only a DB and he's locked down. And low chance is where I'm going to put him.
Yep.
Just because he doesn't do enough on the offensive side. And that's an offensive award at this point. We haven't seen a defensive guy win it. So,
Yep. It's almost a QB award, really.
yeah.
I mean, to be honest, I'd put him at low chance, and he's one of the best corners in the NCAA this year. And it's just so hard to win it as a strictly defensive guy. I mean, even we saw with Chase Young and them getting as many sacks and as many accolades on defense. They're not winning it over QBs years ago, so I don't think he'll win it. So low chance for me.
Yep. Alex?
Sorry about my camera. I don't know why it went out. I don't think I think he has no chance. I mean, I wanted to put him up here because it's Will Johnson, and there was reports that he was going to play some sides of the ball, but that's just another Travis Hunter story. I mean, Travis Hunter has done it for 2 more years than Will Johnson, and we don't even know what Will Johnson will be on offense. But I think that he has no chance. He's the best corner in NCAA in college football this year. But I think that there's better guys than that on offense that will win the award.
Yep. All right, moving on from Will Johnson. We are gonna go on to a guy that I kind of threw in here as a guy to get the conversation going and as a troll, because I'm sure we're gonna get a lot of reactions from this guy and a couple other guys in here. But we got Zachariah Branch from USC. Alex, I don't know if you want to still do the schedule right now because you're working on your camera, but
Sure,
I
I'll
can
do
do
it.
it. All right, you can do it. Sweet.
So Zachariah Branch starts off with LSU, Utah State, at Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Penn State, Maryland, Rutgers, Washington, Nebraska, UCLA, and Notre Dame.
All right, thanks, Alex, for that. Zachariah Branch to me has no chance. This dude has Miller Moss throwing him the ball. Zachariah Branch, I mean, sure, he's an electric punt returner and a kick returner. He's just electric receiver. But what I saw from Notre Dame when he played Notre Dame, and he's going to play a lot of teams that are just like that, I don't think he really has a chance. I'm going to say no chance for Mr. Zachariah Branch as to win the Heisman.
Well, I'm gonna put him at real contender because with Miller the killer throwing him the ball, he's putting up
Okay.
at least 350 and 5 touchdowns against Notre Dame for the last game of the season.
Yeah, you're crazy.
No, he's got no chance. I mean, a freshman receiver who 31 receptions. I don't think he'll get much notability in the Heisman race.
Yep, I agree. Alex?
Yeah. I think he has no chance. First of all, I'm sorry that my camera isn't working. I've been working on it. This is really frustrating. I can't. Emma, you're making an appearance on the podcast. You're welcome. Anyways, I don't think he has a chance at all. Actually, there's. I don't know. I don't really. No comment on him. I don't really.
Alex hates him.
I
Alex
don't
does
hate
not
him.
like. Apparently, Alex does not like Zachariah Branch.
I don't like
all
my
right.
camera not working.
All right, Alex, is your camera not working?
No, I'm trying. I mean,
Well,
I think it is.
but
Is it?
I see you. I
No.
see you on there though.
Oh man.
Looks like you're with someone right now
Yeah.
Okay.
in the woods.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to our next guy. We have 5 more guys left to do, so let's get him. Let's get through them. We have Dylan Gabriel.
Don't say that, man.
We have
5 more guys
Dylan
left to
Gabriel.
rank. We got
All
5
right.
more guys left to rank.
5 more guys left to rank. We have Dylan Gabriel. Alex, he transferred to Oregon. He's going to have a tough schedule this next year. Just to say this. He had 3,600 passing yards, 30 touchdowns, and 6 interceptions, 87 QBR, fourth in the country. This dude is, I think he's the real deal. I think he's a real contender. I mean, a lot of people are going to say that we're fans of Oregon, but there's 300 other accounts
And we
just
are.
like us
We love
who are
Oregon.
saying, yeah, that love Oregon and know that Oregon's going to be really good. So Dylan Gabriel is a real contender for me.
Yep. I got him at real contender too. I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the country. I'd put him better than Carson Beck. I just don't think he has a better supporting cast as Carson Beck. But just looking at his a couple games last year, he put up 344 yards against Oklahoma State. They lost the game by 3, but 344 yards is a great game.
Yep.
423 against West Virginia, 400 against TCU. And that West Virginia game, he had 5-0 for a touchdown to interception. So this dude's the real deal. He's going to be a contender.
Yep. Alex?
Yep, he's a real contender. He has to beat Ohio State and Washington and Michigan and Wisconsin, and I think he will do all but one of those. And I think he's a real contender.
All right. So Dylan Gabriel's a real contender. Let's move on to the guy that Dylan Gabriel actually lost to last year, and Alex is one of his favorite quarterbacks in this year, is Jalen Daniels. Give us a little, give us a little schedule breakdown.
Off-brand Jaden Daniels.
Literally, Alex, schedule.
Oh, I'm sorry. Jalen Daniels, Kansas Jayhawk quarterback. He plays Lindenwood at the beginning of the season. Then he goes to at Illinois, UNLV, West Virginia, TCU, Arizona State, Houston, Kansas State, Iowa State, BYU, Colorado, and Baylor.
Yeah, so that's a pretty favorable schedule if I say so. Jalen Daniels, when he's on the field, Kansas is 8-2, and I like what they're doing at Kansas. So I'm gonna put them in. I'm gonna put him at has a lot to prove. If he has a great season, yes, he's gonna be talked about in the conversation. But has a lot to prove. She's like the right category for him to be in.
Yeah, looking at it, he only played 3 games last year.
It looks like it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I'd put him at has a lot to prove because what was his injury?
Probably. I think it was something with his shoulder. But he's electric when he's on the field. That's what I'll say. Just watching him play a couple games. I think he beat Oklahoma and not Oklahoma, Texas in a shootout game. So I like what Jalen Daniels is all about.
Yeah, I like him too. I think if that injury doesn't bother him this year, he's going to be good. So I'd put him in has a lot to prove.
Alex, what
I
do you think?
also agree. He has a lot to prove, even though I really like Jalen Daniels and the Kansas Jayhawks. I think that he has to play more than 3 games and he has to win more than 3 games. That's the thing. And I mean, his schedule is really favored out for them, honestly. I mean, they really don't have a tough game until Kansas State, I would believe. I mean, you could throw Illinois in there, but they beat him last year. So that's my take on them.
All right, Jalen Daniels has a lot to prove. Moving on to the next guy who plays for Oklahoma now, Nick Anderson, linebacker from Oklahoma. I mean, I could look up his stats real quick. We won't. Did we already have a guy from Oklahoma right now, Alex? No, we didn't.
No,
No, we don't. We have
Alex,
Ollie Gordon from Oklahoma
we have
State.
Nick
Yeah.
Anderson from Oklahoma.
I know that's who we're on.
Oh, we don't have anybody else.
Okay, well, tell us the schedule.
All right, so Nick Anderson, he starts off with Temple, then goes to Houston, then Tulane, Tennessee, Auburn, Texas, South Carolina, Ole Miss, Maine, Missouri, Alabama, and ends the season off with LSU.
I'm gonna say right now, no chance. No chance for Mr. Nick Anderson. Just we haven't seen a linebacker since Manti Te'o even be. I mean, we saw Chase Young, who's a DN, get close, but no reward. So I'm saying no chance for Nick Anderson.
Isaac.
Oh, is he a receiver?
This dude's a receiver.
Dude, I'm an idiot. I'm so stupid.
I was gonna
I'm
say, is
still
there
saying no
two Nick
chance.
Andersons on Oklahoma? Because I can only find the receiver.
Yeah,
And this guy's
dude,
picture
I'm
looks
so dumb.
exactly like that guy's picture.
I'm so dumb. Yeah, I'm still saying no chance. I mean, he's a receiver and he was a freshman. No chance. It's too young.
Yep, fully agree with you. Put that boy in no chance.
No chance at all. Hook him down. Hook him down though.
And
All
he'd
right, let's move
definitely
on.
be no chance if he was a linebacker too.
Yeah, yeah, he's a 6'4", 209-pound linebacker. Sounds like a
That's pretty good.
D3 legend. All right, let's move on to our next guy. This guy is this is definitely a guy that we just threw in there just for fun and just to get the bowling ball rolling for some comments. But this is Rico Flores. He's a Notre Dame transfer. He transferred to UCLA this past offseason. His stats at Notre Dame were 27 receptions, 392 yards, and 1 touchdown before he left. And his 1 touchdown came against Ohio State. I'm gonna say right now, he's a real contender. I'm just kidding. No, he has no chance.
Now run with it. Run with it, Isaac. Real contender.
Real contender, because if you just look at UCLA's roster, dude, it's just so good. No, he has no chance.
I mean,
That's
hey, he did have 14.5 yard average last year.
Yeah, I mean, when he caught the ball, it was pretty electric.
Only one
So,
touchdown though.
yeah.
And he's not gonna have old Sammy Hartman throwing him the ball anymore.
Yeah, he's gonna have. I don't even know who UCLA's quarterback is, so that's kind of why I'm putting it. That's not just why, but he's a no chance guy for me.
Yeah, I'm with it.
No chance.
No chance for Rico Flores. The last guy, Trey Harris, wide receiver from Ole Miss. This guy is actually pretty good. I mean, let's take a look at his stats real quick. Alex, we already went through Ole Miss's schedule. So he had 54 receptions, 985 yards, 8 touchdowns, and an 18.2 average. This dude has to have a great season. He's going to his fifth year, I think. So with Jackson Dart throwing the ball, I feel like him and Trey will be an electric duo for the Rebels this season. And of course, they got Lane Kiffin, so you know he's gonna be getting the ball quite a bit. So Trey Harris has to have a great season.
Yeah, I like that. 18.2 is crazy for an average, and they're not going to have Judkins to rely on as much. So I feel like this guy's going to get a few more looks because of that. So yeah, has to have a great season. But again, I think if anyone from Ole Miss is going to win it, it's going to be Jackson Dart getting
Yes.
him the ball. So
Yep. Alex?
Yep. I think he's gonna have a great season, and I don't think again it's another Brady Cook situation. I don't think it's fair for him to be above Jalen. I mean Jackson Dart, and
Yep.
uh, that's just my take.
All right. So that finishes our list. We have real contenders: Ollie Gordon, Carson Beck, Quinn Ewers, Dylan Gabriel has to have a great season. Jalen Milrow, Jackson Dart, Brady Cook, Quinshawn Junkins, Shaduro Sanders, Luther Burden, the third, Trey Harris has a lot to prove. Riley Leonard, Donovan Edwards, Travis Hunter, Jalen Daniels, Low Chance, Graham Mertz, Kate Klubnik, Nico, Ila Avery Johnson and Will Johnson, and then no chance, Cade McNamara, Zachariah Branch, Nick Anderson, and Rico Flores. Pretty good
Uncle
list there,
Rico.
boys. I'm sure we'll get some comments about how we don't know ball. So I'm excited. This is our last Instagram reel kind of blew up, so that was cool to see and just get everybody's take. Um, if that's pretty much it for this. Jack, you got anything?
No, I mean, keep calling us stupid on the Instagram reels. We love it.
Hey,
We're gonna start debating.
yeah.
And if I get called an Oregon fan again, I might start finding people's addresses.
Yeah. We are no one on this podcast is Oregon fans, but I guess we're Oregon fans.
We're just realists. Oregon's gonna be all right this year.
Yeah, yeah. Alex, you got anything?
No.
All right.
I'm sorry.
All right,
Alex is-
Alec.
Alex is pretty frustrated, so we'll stop talking to him.
No, thanks for the. This episode's been awesome. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties on my end. I hope it sounds okay on the when we post it. But I like this how we did the rankings this time. I'm sure that people are going to be unhappy because their favorite player is going to be in whatever they're going to be in. So keep it up. I can't wait. We eat those comments. So bring it on.
Or we cry. We'll
Yeah.
cry.
Yeah, we have the.
We put
We
our
have tough skin. Don't worry. Let us have it. Just one quick thing. Shout out to Emily Hamner's EMS Studios. She made us this. She made me and Alex this really cool shirt. We, like I said in a couple episodes ago, we'll do a 100 follower giveaway. So bump those followers up on Instagram, and you might be going home with a What You Don't Know Ball podcast shirt. So I'm excited to get this started. We've had a lot of fun with this, and we're gonna we're gonna be consistent. So you guys just keep letting us know what you want to hear, and we'll keep producing the episodes. So if that's it from me, Jack, Alex are good. We'll see you in the next one. Just remember, we don't know ball, and you don't know ball. We'll see you in the next one, guys. Peace.
Yeah. Keep hating.
Yeah. See you guys.
See ya.